This is John Black, Super Chemist. We're going to talk about Sweden having an open border. Channel name is Visual Politic. It's Visual, I'll spell it POLITIC, space EN.
Scandinavian countries have a problem, and a serious problem whose origin is in one very specific country, Sweden. Pay attention to this headline.
How Swedish gangs are exporting young contract killers across Scandinavia.
This is something that probably wouldn't surprise you so much if we were talking about a country in Africa or even Latin America instead of Sweden. But no, we're talking about a Scandinavian country traditionally known for its welfare state and high standard of living. This is a topic we've already talked about in a past video on Visual Politic. Sweden has become one of the most dangerous places in Europe. In this country, organized crime at the hands of foreign gangs is totally out of control. And so, little by little, Sweden has become the country everyone looks to in order not to end up like it. Because the truth is that by European standards, their figures are outrageous. Sweden is already the leading European power in terms of numbers of rape, gang warfare, shootings, and gun murders, after Albania. Thus, Stockholm has a rate of firearm deaths about 30 times higher than London, and nationally, Sweden has the highest rate in all of Europe. In 2023, a total of 55 people were shot to death in 363 separate shootings, and this happened in a country of only 10 million people, historically known for just the opposite, for safety. But these days, the situation is only getting worse. In just 2 years, between 2021 and 2023, shootings increased by more than 8%. The police themselves say they are overwhelmed and aren't sure how to deal with this very negative trend.
Keep in mind, these countries, remember I said, it starts over by Sweden, Germany, and Italy, goes to UK and Australia, and then it comes over to here to the US and Mexico and Canada. Keep in mind, these countries over there by Sweden, Germany, 20% of their population now is foreign people from other countries that don't even speak their language. And they're not integrating. They're setting up dual societies. There are two societies in these countries now.
And that's not even all. Sweden is also the country that records the most explosions each year without being at war. In 2023, there were 149 explosive attacks in the country, which was its all-time record. And let me stress, these figures may seem small if we compare them with those we usually see in the United States or in some Latin American countries. But in Europe, they are really ridiculous.
Keep in mind, this country only has 10 million people. That's like a New York City has like 8 million. No, they have like 10 million by now. This is basically the size of New York City. You know what I mean? So when they get a million, illegal aliens or whatever you want to call them, you get 2 million. Now 20% of your nation is illegal aliens.
But that's not even the end of it. It gets even worse when we take a look at who exactly is responsible for the vast majority of these violent crimes. We're talking about extremely dangerous, organized crime gangs. Gangs dedicated to drug trafficking, arms trafficking, human trafficking, and all the worst behavior you can imagine. In Sweden itself, the former Scandinavian social democratic paradise that is fast becoming a continental crime epicenter. But who are these criminals really, and why is the whole situation so concerning? Well, in the press, you'll often read that a Swede has done this or that, and it's true. Technically, they are Swedish. But since the devil is in the details, we took a look at the government's own official statistic. What we found is that the story is not exactly as it is being told. The reality is that almost 90% of those sentenced to prison for these types of crimes are foreign-born or second-generation immigrants. I repeat, we're talking about almost 90% of all those convicted. It's madness, which logically tells us that there's a serious problem of integration and management of migratory flows. Something that other countries need to look at in order not to make the same mistakes. And you know what the worst thing is? That while for many years organised crime in Sweden was a problem only for Swedes, now it's jumping the borders to its neighbouring countries. Yes, that's right, Sweden has become an exporter of crime and violence in the region, which understandably is causing enormous anger. Check it out.
It reflects a completely sick, depraved culture of violence that something like this could take place in Sweden and grow into a phenomenon. We don't want that in Denmark.
What you've just heard was said last August by the Minister of Justice of Denmark.
Keep in mind that everyone has their borders open. So Denmark had their borders wide open, no vetting, and then they act like it's Sweden's fault that they have these people, these illegal aliens, murderers and rapists coming to their country. Now, it's not Sweden's fault. It's the European Union is owned by the deep state. It's global domination, right?
Social Democratic minister to boot. We aren't talking about some outburst from a politician that you could label as extreme right or anything like that. Can you imagine how embarrassing it must be to have a minister from your neighbouring country say that you live in a place with a depraved culture? Something very serious has to be going on. So in this video, we'll answer several questions. How is the violence spreading from Sweden to the rest of the Nordic countries?
The borders are open. Put it this way, if I'm wrong, and it wasn't the borders are open, if they have borders that are closed, how are they getting in from Sweden? You know what I mean? Like these people, they aren't coming from Sweden. They're coming from the Middle East. They're going to Sweden, and then they're going through Sweden to these other countries. Okay? It's not that Sweden is letting them in. Denmark is letting them in by having open borders.
What are countries like Denmark, Finland and Norway doing to protect themselves from the criminals coming from Sweden? Are we already looking at a security problem at the European level? Well, in this video, we're going to tell you all the details. But before, as someone who's been creating YouTube videos for absolutely years, I can tell you that a lot happens behind the scenes. Recently, we discovered a tool that has transformed how we make videos What we're going to tell you now is not an American action movie. It's what's been happening in previously sleepy Denmark. On July 24th, a Swedish youth of only 16 years old opened fire with a Glock pistol and started shooting in Copenhagen's Blågård Square. Fortunately, in this case, there were no injuries. Just 1 week later, on the 31st of July, another 17-year-old Swedish youth opened fire in the town of Kolding. A few days later, another, yet again, Swedish youth, also aged 17, fired 6 shots with a semi-automatic weapon, wounding another 18-year-old in the leg. It happened in the Frederiksberg district of the Danish capital. And we're not even done. On Tuesday the 6th of August, 2 Swedish nationals blew up a kiosk in Copenhagen with explosives. And so, on a case-by-case basis, Denmark added 25 such criminal acts and attempts by Swedish nationals between April and August 2024 alone. And take note, this in itself already surpasses all similar cases of the previous year, 2023.
It's very concerning that this can happen, and very concerning that it's now happening in Denmark.
And of course, with all that we are telling you, many of you will be asking the following question. What on earth is going on? Why are teenagers travelling from Sweden to Denmark to shoot people and explode bombs? Well, according to the Swedish and Danish authorities, we are witnessing a new criminal phenomenon. Sweden's so-called child soldiers. Tens, hundreds of young Swedes of immigrant origin from ghettoized neighborhoods from the so-called Swedish parallel societies have become true pawns of crime. There's even a more or less established price list for each of the different services. What do you need to shoot someone in the leg as a warning? Well, that's about $5,000. If the objective is to explode a business with grenades or homemade explosives, such as the Copenhagen kiosk that we mentioned before, then in that case the price is about $7,000. What if you need to go further and need a definitive solution? Well, that would set you back anywhere from $8,000 at the lowest end to over $50,000. Terrible. And so, on Telegram, young Swedish nationals who are attracted by this kind of easy money use emojis to avoid being detected by the algorithms. An apple instead of a grenade, and a water gun for the final solution. Visual politic community, we're talking about a problem that's only growing and is extremely difficult to monitor. According to Swedish police, hold on to your seat, at least 93 children under the age of 15 are suspected of planning and committing murders. And take note, because at least 700 would-be criminals for hire have been detected. Crazy. As you can see from the graph, Swedish nationals who commit crimes with firearms are getting younger and younger. and the situation is only getting worse. Among other reasons, because the very laws that protect minors with more procedural guarantees are also causing gang leaders to prefer younger kids to carry out their plans. So we're talking about a growing army of teenagers with guns and grenades. As I told you, it's crazy. Well, all this export of Swedish crime to countries like Denmark that we're seeing has mostly to do with the gang war that has escalated in the last year. Basically, we have a large Swedish gang fighting a Danish gang who are fighting to maintain control of the narcotics trade between the two countries. This is turning into a nightmare for the Danes, who are certainly not used to a situation like this, and the worst is yet to come. Why? Because foreign gangs are recruiting more and more soldiers. In Denmark itself, for instance, it's estimated that there are already at least 1,500 gang members, while in Sweden, with less than twice the population, there are about 14,000.
Sweden says rooting out gangs will take a decade.
And do you know what the worst thing is? Well, Swedish crime is not only spreading to Denmark, its other neighbours, Finland and Norway, also have every reason to be concerned.
It is serious. We are afraid that the development we have seen in Sweden will infect us.
Although
Of course it will infect you. You got your borders open. All these countries complaining about Sweden. No, you have your borders open. If your borders were closed, these people wouldn't be able to come into your country. It's that simple. I mean, a child can tell you that, okay? Yeah, they're making a base in Sweden. Yeah, because they know that they could just stay there and go over the border and do their stuff and come back and not have to worry about consequences, because you have open borders to every country in the European Union.
the level of contagion has not yet reached the level being recorded in Denmark. The Norwegian government says that Swedish criminal networks are already operating throughout the country. So, with all that we are telling you, I'm sure many of you are wondering, okay, and what the hell are governments doing to stop all this? Are there any measures already on the table? Well, yes.
Denmark considers introducing border controls with Sweden following recent shootings.
The police have started to increase their inspections on trains crossing the Øresund Bridge. That's the bridge connecting Copenhagen with Malmö, Sweden's...
What's funny is, all they're going to do is they're going to strengthen the border between Sweden and Denmark, while all the other borders, every other border in Denmark is wide open. You think they're not just going to go around and come in around, you know what I mean? Instead of directly going in, they'll go around on the sides so that they don't have to, you know, they can go through the open border. These people, you know, they're not idiots, okay? A 3-year-old can tell you that, you know. If you only have a border that's 10 feet long and the rest of your border is wide open, they'll just walk around your 10-foot fence, you know what I mean? Yeah, this is undesigned. They want it. This is a global thing. And these people saying that I'm going to leave the country and I'm going to go to another. All the first world countries have open borders, you idiots. And they all have gender whatevers, and they're all going communist.
Third largest city. Many more cameras and other reconnaissance devices are also being installed on the border with Sweden. But that's not all. On top of that, the Nordic countries have reached an agreement. From now on, there will be a lot more Danish, Finnish and Norwegian police operating alongside the Swedish police within Sweden itself.
See, they don't want to fix the problem because they would just close the borders, right? They don't want to do that. They want to say, well, let there be murders and rapists in the thing. We'll just have more police. Then and as they rape and kill people, we can arrest them. You know, that's more sense than closing the border and no one gets raped and murdered. No. You're racist if you do that. Okay. To be a good person, you have to open your borders up, let the rapists and murderers come in, because you got to be tolerant for everyone, even the rapists and the murderers. Let them come in, let them rape people and murder people, and then we'll arrest them then. Okay. In America, we'll arrest them, but we won't lock them up. We'll let them back out to rape and murder more. And I'm sure they do that in Sweden too.
Denmark and Sweden police operate across borders to tackle gang crime spree.
And if these measures don't work in the short term, the land that brought us Lego is even considering suspending the application of the Schengen Treaty and implementing full border controls with its northern neighbour. But take note, because this is...
See, again, with its northern neighbour. You can't have open borders around your entire country and put up a 10-foot long fence and act like that's going to do something. Okay? That's a joke. We know it. And they know it, because a child would know that. You know, if you have a border that's 300 miles long and you put up 10-mile long fence, they're just going to walk around the fence, okay? Come on.
Is not even the most striking thing. Sweden and Finland have begun to enable their police forces to carry out operations in border municipalities inside the neighbouring country. They've even announced a new law to allow officers to intervene within the other country in situations involving immediate danger, without the Swedish and Finnish police having to apply for permission.